A series of wildfires has burned at least 12,000 acres in Northern California and prompted evacuations. The biggest of the fires destroyed buildings in the historic gold rush town of Chinese Camp. Thousands of people lived there during the gold rush years in the 19th century. State fire officials believe the blazes in the Sierra Nevada region were likely sparked by lightning. Firefighters have no containment on the fires.
Well, the world's largest iceberg has broken apart. Scientists from the British Antarctic Survey say the iceberg, known as A23A, is rapidly breaking up into very large chunks. Previously, it weighed roughly 1.1 trillion tons and spanned more than 1,400 square miles. That's a size slightly bigger than Rhode Island. Now the megaberg shrunk to about 650 square miles, roughly the size of Greater London. Still pretty big.
Yeah, still pretty big.
Huge.
Well, it is feeling cool outside, but not iceberg kind of weather. Not yet. Just more of a taste of fall sticking around through the weekend and beyond. We'll have that chance of rain Thursday night and then maybe a little rain next Wednesday, but it does look like we'll get into a fairly nice stretch of weather, which will include a little bit of a warming trend. So if you're not a fan of the cool air, there's still some time for some warmer temperatures to return, and it does look like the middle of September will feature some of that, but it's going to be harder and harder to come by. September quickly turns into October.
Oh my gosh. I've already seen some of the leaves changing out there. Crazy to believe.
We'll be shoveling driveways before we know it.
Don't say that. We'll be right back.